Book for Time. Tell us what that was and what you were doing as legal counsel for them.
Yeah, Book for Time is a really interesting company. So the best way to describe it is if you ever go to like a spa at a five-star hotel, resort, or casino around the world, when you have to when you sign in, you check in, you have to fill out that intake form with all of your medical history, your name, address, phone number, all
Mm.
that kind of thing. Essentially, what that company did was provide the software and the service to be able to run that mechanism. So being able to take in intake forms, being able to schedule your inventory and your appointments, some financials and things
Mm.
like that. So basically, it was a spa software service for spas at 4 and 5 star hotels and casinos around the world. Um, so coming into that role, I was the first lawyer that they had hired at any point. They were still a relatively young company at that point, probably around 10 or 11 years old, and they just finally they had finally had enough legal work to bring a lawyer in house rather than having to pay you know exorbitant amount of fees for an external lawyer. So they brought me in, and it was a great experience. I have nothing negative to say about that company. It was an amazing time. I learned a lot, and being the only lawyer there at the time, um, it was obviously all like everything was on my shoulders, but it was in a good way. There wasn't pressure. It was like, let me now take this step to build my skills and build what I'm going to be for the rest of my career. And it was right at the time where the GDPR, so the privacy laws in the UK, were taking
Mm.
place and had just come in. And this company was operational in about 70 countries around the world, depending on where the hotel was. So um
Oh,
yeah.
oh God, that's a lot to manage.
Yeah, so depending on the privacy laws of the different countries and the regulations of the different countries, we needed to be privacy compliant. So they had no privacy structures, but when I got there, so I was able to, develop and implement all the privacy structures from the legal standpoint, make them GDPR compliant, make them, PIPEDA and Canadian regulatory and Canadian law compliant. Had to do a lot of compliance with some of the harder countries to get compliance in, like Saudi Arabia and China, and
Mm.
sometimes in the Philippines, we had a lot of work there. Set up all the structures essentially from the legal standpoint, and kind of refurbish their master service agreements to consider privacy. And there was a lot of negotiations with multiple lawyers from the big brands like Marriott and Jumeirah and Four Seasons, and it kind of really gave me a ground to stand on, just even like just mentally, because I was able to kind of play with the big boys in a sense. And I was able to negotiate and do some, have some really good deals done, and set up an entire like legal structure. So it was a really great experience.
Sounds like you were dealing with a lot of translators, like 70 different countries. I have to imagine a lot of those countries were not publishing their privacy laws in English.
Yeah, yeah, Google Translate was a really good friend of mine at the time.
Nice.
Yeah, luckily we had it was a pretty diverse work environment, so majority of the time I was able to just grab somebody and then ask them like what this sentence means or what that means, and they were able to give me tools that they use to translate things and stuff like that. So it wasn't. It could have been a lot harder than it was, but yeah, definitely a lot of reading, and then also reading between the lines in different jurisdictions, 'cause they don't write laws the same way everywhere. So it was quite interesting experience.
I imagine you were also working some crazy hours. I'm not necessarily talking about like long days like lawyers are typically known for, but like maybe like you said, halfway around the world, they wanted to have a conference call at, maybe 9:30 a.m. their local time, which if it's say Saudi Arabia, which I believe is what, 7 hours ahead of us, maybe 6 hours, that means you're getting up before the sun.
Yeah, yeah, there were a few calls that, yeah, had to be either the wee hours of the morning or, late hours at night. Luckily, most of the time we kind of found a spot here and there to take a call. But yeah, there were definitely some early mornings and late nights. And but I mean, I was still pretty young in my career at that point, so it was kind of refreshing, and I felt important. There was that's kind of how it was. It feels important when you got to wake up and take a call. Now it's a little annoying, but it was
Yes.
I felt important at that time for sure.